In episode 136 of the Guitar Music Theory podcast, I talk about adding effects to acoustic guitar. Greetings, guitar engineers. Welcome to the Guitar Music Theory podcast. I am your host, Desi Cerna. And today, I'm going to talk about how you can add effects to your acoustic guitar, or maybe more specifically to your acoustic electric guitar. The effects include reverb, delay, chorus. I'm even going to talk about using tremolo, some pitch shifting, and maybe even a phaser. We'll see. I'm going to play in the style of some familiar songs, and I'm going to show you how you can give your acoustic guitar more dimension by adding these effects. I'll be playing through my Kemper profiling amplifier, and I'm going to use some profiles of the Fishman Aura Spectrum acoustic DI box. I'll talk more about that later, but if you're a Kemper user, this will be of added interest to you. And if you're not a Kemper user, don't worry about it. You can still add these effects to your acoustic guitar using other devices or some standalone stock boxes. Now, maybe what I talk about today is just the sort of thing you should be working on right now. Or maybe your guitar playing needs attention in other areas. If you need help determining what you should specifically be working on right now in order to become a better guitar player, go to my website, guitarmusictheory.com. Answer the question I ask you about your playing, and I'll send you free custom video instruction that is calibrated to your current level. Whether you're a beginner still needing to learn the basics, or you need help with finger picking, using bar chords, playing guitar solos, or you want to delve deeply into music theory, I have a free video course for you. I can help you fill gaps in your knowledge and fill gaps in your playing so you can move forward, become a better player, and have more fun on your instrument. So enroll in your free video course now at guitarmusictheory.com. You can click on the link in the podcast show notes. All right, so we are ready to dive in. So before I get into talking about adding effects to your acoustic sound, well, you know what? Let's just let me just kind of get straight into it so you can really hear what this episode is going to be all about. So here's a acoustic guitar with minimal effects. I'm just using some imaging technology, a little bit of compression, and some reverb, and it sounds like this. Playing in the style of Boston's More Than a Feeling, but what if I turn this on? There's some delay. I could add some chorus in addition to that. This is some pitch shifting to make it sound like a 12-string. All right, so we're going to get into that sort of stuff. There's just a little taste of what's to come. But before I actually talk about the effects, I want to talk about using an acoustic guitar DI. So I realize I have listeners here that may not be familiar with this. So I am playing an acoustic electric guitar. So you're not hearing the actual acoustic sound. I don't have a microphone on this acoustic guitar, right? It's got that under saddle pickup, and I'm connected. You would have to connect to a PA system or an acoustic guitar amplifier. You wouldn't want to plug an acoustic electric guitar into an electric guitar amp because that's going to process the signal to make electric guitar tones. And electric guitar tones are different from acoustic guitar tones. electric guitar tones are very mid-range focused. You want to have some kind of overdrive and warmth added from the tube circuitry of an amp. You might even want to add distortion and that sort of thing. But with an acoustic guitar, you want like full EQ, full range in terms of the frequencies, full frequency range. So typically you would plug an acoustic guitar directly into a PA system. Or if you're going to use an acoustic guitar amp, it's essentially like a mini PA. It's going to amplify it. You're going to get a full frequency response. So I'm going through my Kemper profiling amplifier. And if you're not familiar with that, basically it's a device that will where you can profile the sound of different types of amplifiers, and you use it primarily for electric guitar. Bass players can use it too because you can profile different bass amplifiers. I'm going to use it because I found that someone had profiled some different types of acoustic guitar DI boxes. And so let's talk about that. Sometimes when you plug an acoustic guitar straight into a PA, it sounds, well, I'll tell you what it sounds like. I'm going to turn off what I'm using here so you can hear the sound of the acoustic guitar. This is coming straight from the acoustic guitar now. There's nothing straight into my recording device without any sort of effects or anything else that would try to enhance the sound in the Kemper. So. So that's the sound of an acoustic electric guitar. And you'll notice that it doesn't sound as full and as warm as an acoustic guitar would if you're just playing it acoustically and just hearing its natural sound, in the room. And these under-saddle bridges are great because they allow you to amplify an acoustic guitar for live settings or recording and that sort of thing. But they do rob the guitar of a lot of its tone and sound. So typically acoustic electric guitars have some sort of onboard preamp where you can adjust the frequencies a little bit, boost the bass or the mid or the treble, and that might have some other things in there. And that can be helpful just to kind of sculpt the sound a little bit. Sometimes when you're playing an acoustic guitar together with a full band and in a dense mix, the acoustic guitar's quality is not really going to be able to fit into the mix and come out anyway. Sometimes when acoustic guitars are recorded in the studio with mics the proper way to capture the best sound, once they get into the mix, the mixing engineer has to kind of pull some frequencies out, maybe boost the treble a little bit in order to find a spot for that acoustic guitar to fit into a dense mix with other instruments, including other guitars and keyboards and basses and vocals and stuff like that. So all that to say, sometimes an acoustic electric guitar can work even though it sounds a little too thin or trebly coming out of one of these pickups. Sometimes that's going to be a good thing in a dense mix because it's going to end up kind of cutting through right in that frequency range where it can be audible among the other instruments. But a lot of acoustic guitar players don't like that sound. It just sounds too brittle and too unnatural. And so this is where a DI box or a direct input box or direct injection box, comes into play. DI boxes kind of serve two purposes. A basic DI box is something where you could plug in a 1/4 inch cable in one end, and then you come out of it with an XLR mic cable so that you can connect to a mixer that has an XLR mic cable input, and it's going to convert the impedance so that you can make that connection properly. So sometimes acoustic guitar players will just simply do that. It's not really adding anything to the sound. It's just converting the cable 1/4 inch to XLR and with appropriate impedance. But there's other types of DI boxes that have more circuitry in them to try to make the acoustic guitar, the acoustic electric guitar sound better, and to kind of give you some more EQ options and some more sculpting options than the onboard preamp built into the guitars would give you. And in some cases, it's going to have some modeling technology or something like that. And if you've never use these sort of devices and you're totally unfamiliar with them, you can just go to an online retailer like Guitar Center or Sweetwater and just search acoustic guitar DI box. And you'll see that there's actually different manufacturers and there's several different types out there. Some of the more popular ones would be like the LR Bragg's DI boxes or the Fishman. And I use a Fishman. I use something called the Fishman Aura Spectrum. And it's interesting because, well, I'm actually on the website here. Let's read the description. It says that it features award-winning Aura acoustic imaging technology that restores the studio mic'd sound to your undersaddle or sound hole pickup, delivering the most realistic acoustic guitar sound available for stage or studio. I think what's going on with this is that they mic'd up a bunch of different types of acoustic guitars in the studio and used technology to analyze the sound and the frequency response and stuff, and digitally built that into this pedal. And then as you play through it, you actually will go through the different settings and you'll try to select settings that matches the type of guitar that you're playing, whether you're playing like a orchestra acoustic guitar or a dreadnought or a parlor or something like that. And then you can blend in between the plain sound of the acoustic electric. You can blend in some of this, what do they call it again? This imaging technology, and it makes it sound more natural. And it actually does work, and so I'm a fan of the Fishman Aura Spectrum. It's kind of pricey, but it does improve the sound, and so I like to use it for that purpose. Now, I'm not actually plugged into the Aura Spectrum right now. Instead, I'm going through my Kemper, and I found that someone out there had made some profiles of the Aura Spectrum and added it to the Kemper. So that's what we're going to play through here. So let's pull up one of these. And here is the sound. Well, let's do this. Let's take the effects off. So here's the sound, completely plain, like you just heard a little bit ago. And then here's with some of the Aura Spectrum mixed in. So can you hear the difference? Here's without. And here's with. So what you should notice is that it sounds less like an undersaddle pickup and it sounds more natural, more like it's got more of that depth and sound characteristic of an acoustic guitar. And then since there's all sorts of effects built into the Kemper, I can add some other things. I'm putting a compressor in front of this. I don't know what it's doing or how much it's doing actually. Here's without the compressor. And then here's with it. Yeah, so it's kind of compressing the sound a little bit and just giving it a little bit more punch. It's without, with. It's very subtle. Without. With. Yeah, I can hear the difference in my earphones. I'm not sure what this is going to sound, what the final product's going to sound like on your end. Next, I'm going to add some reverb. And if you're going to add effects to an acoustic guitar, typically the first thing you would add is reverb. Compression, sometimes I wouldn't say that's critical. If you got it, experiment with it. Usually, reverb is the first thing you go for. So here's completely dry. And then here's some reverb. There. So that just breathes some life into it. Makes you sound like you're in a room. This is the Legacy reverb in the Kemper, and it's just the large room. The room size is large room reverb. So without the reverb and with the reverb. it doesn't sound so dry. That kind of helps it sound more natural. It's like you're hearing reflections in the room and stuff from a real acoustic guitar. So I found 5 profiles of some different Aura Spectrum settings, and none of these particularly matched my specific acoustic guitar. None of these are actually the settings that I use when I use the Aura Spectrum. You know what? At some point here, I'm going to plug into the Aura Spectrum, and I should probably let you hear what it sounds like when I go directly through it instead of the Kemper. But anyway, let's go through some of the ones that I found available in the free rig exchange for the Kemper. And people who aren't Kemper users, this is still useful to you because maybe you've never used an acoustic guitar DI box like the Fishman Aura Spectrum or the LR or the other models that are available. And this is still going to give you an example of how one of those types of pedals could change your acoustic guitar sound. So here's one. Here's another. Number 3. Number 4. And number 5. You know, in each case, it's adding something to the sound. It's making it sound more realistic, more natural. And this imaging technology on these different presets is trying to reproduce the sound of a particular shape and size of an acoustic guitar. And the shape and size is going to affect its sound, its frequency range. And then there also may be, whoever created these profiles for the Kemper may have also done some stuff with some EQ. If I go through these again, yeah, I am seeing that there's some adjustments on the EQ and stuff like that. So I could sculpt each one of these a little bit more. As I was going through and sampling these, I found that I preferred some more than others, So it's like, that's 1, here's 2. Yeah, I don't like that one. I felt like maybe this is just not, what is this, a Dread? Yeah, this is a image of a Dread guitar. I don't know if, I didn't like the sound of this one. I felt like it was maybe a little too, what do they say, tin canny or something? I'm not sure. Here's number 3. I'll go back to 1. 3. Back to 1. 4. Like this one's got more mid-range in it. This number 5 has less. So as I was playing through some of these, I'm like, I like this sounds fuller, and this other one maybe sounds a little too thin or maybe too trebly. And then it occurred to me, wait a minute, Desi, you idiot, why haven't you ever brought this rig to church when you play acoustic guitar and stuff? Because when you are listening to an instrument in isolation, what sounds good that way does not always sound good in a mix. So sometimes when you hear a guitar in isolation, you want it to sound full and you want there to be plenty of lows and highs and mids in between. But when you're playing in a band in a full mix, those frequencies interfere with other instruments, and so you might want to drop some bass and you might want to add some treble or something. That way it gives the acoustic guitar more clarity in the mix, and it helps kind of carve out a little spot for it to fit in with everything else that's going in around it. So sometimes you can't pass judgment on these sounds until you're playing along with the band, in which case my opinions on all these presets might change. Maybe the ones that I like, I'm like, ooh, that doesn't work as well when I'm playing with a full band. So I might do that the next time I get called to play acoustic guitar. Also, I might choose a different setting if I'm using a pick, if I'm strumming, or if I'm using my fingers and I'm finger picking. Let me put a capo on here. And let's do some like... That's number 5. Here's number 4. Definitely some lower mid or some more bass frequency here. Back to 5. And 4. Are you hearing that? Added low mid or some bass or something in there. You might like that. Maybe you don't like that. Maybe if you're doing a solo gig, you might want the sound to be a little fuller, but if you were playing with a band, you might want to take that out. Here's preset 3. I feel like this makes the guitar sound smaller. This is number 4. To me, that sounds bigger than 3, like the guitar. Maybe not. This does this. Maybe a little more clarity here, but not as much as 5. How about 2? Now let's stay on 2 here, but let me take off this imaging technology so now you're just hearing straight from the pickup. This is straight from the pickup. Well, there's still some reverb and compression. And now with that imaging technology, yeah, it definitely sounds more natural acoustic guitar. And back to number 1. Straight from the pickup. And with the imaging technology. Yeah, it definitely adds more of that natural acoustic guitar sound. Just really gives it some life. Kind of sounds a little dull and lifeless without it. And then same if I'm strumming. So let's strum. Let's do some Indigo Girls, shall we? That's without the technology. Now let's put it in. Here's preset 2. Preset 3. Number 4. Number 5. Here's number 5, taking it away. This is just straight from the pickup now. And putting the imaging back in. So what's my favorite here as I'm strumming? Maybe one. I think the first one. I might have a different opinion once I listen to this recording back. One sounds nicest to me in my in-ears right now that I'm using. But anyway, if you get one of these fancy DI boxes that gives you kind of extra control over the sound this way, then you see that you'll have options where you can EQ it and sculpt it a little bit differently depending on the application. So you might want it to sound one way if you're doing a solo gig, and you might want to sound it another way if you're playing with a full band. Or maybe you're in a room where the high-end frequencies are just getting lost, and so you need to dial more of them in, so you can kind of have more control over sculpting that acoustic guitar sound so that it sounds good in the room, and you can deal with whatever the room is giving you and how things are sounding EQ-wise in the room. So this is why anytime you hear, most professional guitar players, if they're an acoustic guitar player, are usually not going to go straight into a PA system. They're going to put something in between it so they can make it sound better. And sound guys and stuff prefer that too because they can get a better quality sound and have more control over it. So if you do that type of playing, you've never tried one of these, you might want to do that. So, and you can use, and actually this whole topic came up because someone had emailed me and said, hey, I know you're a Kemper user. Have you ever used it for acoustic? And I basically said, yeah, I tried it once or twice, but I don't normally use it because I have a Fishman or a Spectrum DI box. So I use that. But after I had answered his question, I thought, well, let me experiment with this a little bit more. And so I discovered that there were some profiles of different images from the Aura Spectrum, and that whoever created this actually went in and programmed some effects. And I thought, oh, well, perfect. And then I had so much fun with these effects. And I remember I recently did a Zoom lesson with someone who was preparing for a gig. He's going to play in an REM cover band, tribute band, cover band gig, I don't know. And he's going to sing and play acoustic guitar. And he had asked questions like, what kind of effects might he add to his acoustic guitar in a live setting? Or should he not do that? And we covered that in a lesson. But I thought, oh, you know what? Let's do that in a podcast. This is going to be cool. So let's talk about effects now. I already talked about you could add a little bit of compression at the beginning of your signal chain, and then you can add reverb at the end of it. Reverb is going to be the first thing you would typically add. Sometimes if in a live setting, you don't need to worry about that because the sound man's going to add reverb at the mixing board in the room. But maybe you're not in that situation. Maybe you need to generate it yourself. So reverb would be the way to go. And then you can, try different rooms. There's a small room, medium room, large room, hall reverb, cathedral. Have fun with that. Go get yourself a reverb pedal, or if you use something like the Kemper or a Line 6, product or something like that, you probably have a variety of reverbs that are built in. You want to be careful that you don't use too much reverb and then your sound just gets washed out. You don't want to sound like you're in a canyon. Okay, Well, I don't know. Maybe you would in some cases, but usually you just want to just give the acoustic guitar a little more dimension and just give it, just kind of breathe a little bit of life and make it sound natural, like there's room reflections. You don't want it to sound completely dry. So reverb would be the first thing that you do. From there, an effect that might be added would be chorus. So here's without, and then here's with. Pretty subtle. Without, with. Without, with. So a chorusing effect is supposed to create the sound like there's more than one guitar. And it's, is it a time-based effect? Yeah, it's kind of like detuning things slightly to make it sound like there's more than one guitar. So, without, with. It could be nice when you're arpeggiating stuff, you know, on acoustic guitar, just to kind of give things some more dimension. I switch keys here, you know. So without the chorus, and then with it. And it can sound nice, maybe to make the guitar sound a little bit bigger. Let me put a capo on here. Let's try a little free falling. No chorus. Then let's add the chorus. No chorus. Then with it. Yeah, so that's what chorus sounds like. What else do we have here? Ooh, let's not do that one just yet. And then this is, no, let's not do that one just yet. Let's talk about delay. And there's a delay that was already programmed in here. And when I first turned this on and I went, ew, what is that? I thought, I'm like, well, I don't think I like that. And then I was messing around and I played in the style of Boston's More Than a Feeling. And I was like, oh, wow, does that make that sound much bigger and nicer or what? You know? If I switch keys here. Pretty cool. It might kind of get in the way though when I'm strumming. Here's without it. Here's with it. Now what if I tap to my to my tempo I was strumming at? That's with it. Here's without. And with it. So yeah, kind of interesting. Now sometimes I wouldn't. Let's see. What do we have on here? What if I do? Oh, that wasn't a tap tempo. That's why I don't think that changed. All right. So I made some changes here to the delay. Got it set to some quarter notes here. I also kind of reduced the mix and the feedback a little bit. Yeah, so you can kind of experiment with it. Maybe the simplest way to start with delay is to do a simple quarter note delay or maybe an eighth note delay. Make sure you don't have too many repeats and the mix isn't too high. Otherwise, it's just going to get real messy. It's just going to get in the way. All right, let's move on. I want to go back to that preset that was in here because it was so cool for this song. In addition to that, I might add chorus in there as well. So here's with the delay and chorus now. Now, here is another trick you could do. Let's wait on that. Wait on that, Desi. Let's do this one. How about this one? This is tremolo. Oh, what might I use this for? I don't know. It's kind of mellow vibe thing. Would it work for free falling? I've got some chorus in there too. I can't say that tremolo is really used much on an acoustic guitar. But you could. It's kind of cool. You can have some fun with that. What if I'm kind of finger picking or something, you know? I don't know. I'm just messing around. That could be fun. Could work. It could be useful in, you know, a live performance setting. There's also a phaser in here. So let's see. Kind of cool, you know, something like that. Could you hear that sweeping in there a little bit? What else might I use that for? I'm just trying to think. You know, I don't know. Maybe. But actually, if I was going to play Stairway, then I would use this effect, which is a harmonizer, and I have it set to take the note that I'm playing and reproduce it and play a note that's an octave higher, so it'll sound like I'm playing a 12 string. So here's without that, and here's with it. That's kind of cool. Kind of sounds like a 12 string there. So when I go to that other part without it, and then with it, so we've got some imaging technology on there to make it sound a little bit more like a natural acoustic sound. And then there's a little bit of compression. There's reverb. Now we've added this harmonizing effect. And what if I put that delay in there? Without the delay, with the delay. Yeah, kind of interesting. Without the delay, with it. What if I add chorus in there too? can't tell if that sounds good or if that sounds like there's too much going on. I would be able to make that determination on playback when I listen back to this. Got a feeling maybe that might be a little too much. I mean, I could put the tremolo in there, and then for sure, I might have way too much going on. Tremolo off. That's kind of a cool sound. What if we just use that delay though? And then just put the harmonizer back on there. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Let's go back to our Boston song here. So that's playing. Let's put the delay in there. How about the harmonizer? That's pretty cool. I like that. I could add some other stuff, but I don't want to overdo it. But I do want to put a capo on my guitar, 2nd fret, playing in the C position here. Let's hear what these effects sound like if I'm doing some finger picking. So let's do a little Fleetwood Mac. All right, what if I put that delay in there? Without it. I mean, obviously this song wasn't played with effects. Sounds nice, kind of a little simplistic here. Definitely had some reverb or something on there, but with that delay. I don't know, it kind of sounds nice to me. What if we use chorus instead? Here's just reverb. Chorus. Tremolo. Yeah, I don't like the tremolo. Do we want to go 12 string? Yeah, I don't like that. I don't mind the chorus. Chorus sounds nice. And the delay sounds nice. Let's do that again with the delay. Yeah, I kind of like that. So yeah, some of these effects could also be used for finger picking as well. So anyway, to recap, so if you're playing an acoustic electric guitar in some sort of setting that requires you to plug it in, instead of just going straight to the PA or whatever the situation might be, sometimes you can get an extra fancy DI box that's just got gives you some more ability to sculpt the sound and maybe add some more of the natural acoustic life back into it. And you can just search acoustic guitar DI box at an online retailer, and you can see the different models and read the reviews, or go to your local music store and try some of these out. If you have the opportunity to plug into a PA system, or somehow use headphones or something to actually hear what's happening, because you got to amplify it, in order to hear how it's affecting the sound. And then in terms of adding effects, okay, you might add some compression. Sometimes your sound guy might do that at the board just to kind of even out the sounds a little bit. You don't want to squash it and make it sound poppy or anything like that. So it's something that's a subtle effect, and you don't want to add too much of it. But typically, what acoustic guitar players would want is some reverb. So that would kind of be maybe your first go-to effect. And then if you want something beyond that, you could try adding maybe a subtle delay. And you want to make sure that if you're using that delay, that it's not getting in the way of your playing. So make sure that it's not too loud, there aren't too many repeats. And usually it'll fill the space better if you have space in your playing. If you're doing a lot of busy strumming, that delay is probably going to get in the way and you would turn it off. But if you have sections where you're arpeggiating chords and you want to give your sound a little bit more depth and sustain, then that delay can actually fill in, kind of give some tails to your notes and actually sound really, really good. And then other effects would include chorus, kind of just expands the sound of the acoustic guitar. And then we had some fun with this harmonizer here to make it sound like a 12-string. Honestly, that's something I've never done, so I don't know if that's really a necessary effect, but it was kind of neat. So you can get yourself a multi-effects processor or something and experiment with adding these. And keep in mind that whenever you're creating sounds, that you want to create sounds that are going to work well for whatever situation you're going to play in. So you might have something that sounds great as you're just playing unaccompanied, by yourself at home. But then if you go to play at church or play at a gig and you're in a different room and playing through a PA system and there's other instrumentation, someone might say, I don't like your guitar sound, it's getting lost in the mix, or you need to change the EQ, or I'd take that effect off. So you want to just think about what's going to sound good for each situation. So keep that in mind. When I create my guitar sounds, if I'm going to be playing with a full band, I will usually put music on, I put my headphones on, I crank up the music, and then I play my guitar along with it so I can figure out what does this guitar sound like in a mix with other instrumentation, and I'll EQ it and make my settings that way. And then when I go to the gig, I'm more prepared, and typically the sound people recognize that and they say, oh, that sounds great, that's cutting through just fine. But I'll often ask for some more feedback, and they'll say, well, I would actually bump the treble a little bit more. And I'd be like, ooh, I feel like there's too much as is. And they're like, well, but here in the room, once everybody starts playing, you're getting lost, and a little bit more treble would actually help you come out a little bit more. So you want to pay attention to when you get feedback like that, and you want to understand that you can't always go by how you hear things in your monitor. You want to think about how does it sound in the room. For me personally, my philosophy was I'm most concerned about how it sounds in the room. If it sounds a little too trebly in my monitor or my in-ears, but the sound guy said, don't mess with it, we need it that way because it sounds good in the room, in the mix, then I defer to the expertise of the sound man because I want people in the room to hear the best sound possible. All right, podcast number 136 is a wrap. And wasn't that fun? We got to do something a little bit different here by focusing on guitar tones instead of music theory. Hey, if you got suggestions about other things you'd like me to discuss or demonstrate on the podcast, just send your suggestions my way. You can go to my website, guitarmusictheory.com, scroll down to find the contact link, and you can shoot me an email. And if you have yet to enroll in one of my free video courses, go to guitarmusictheory.com. I'll ask you a question about your playing, look at the list of answers, and select the one that best describes you. And then I will direct you to the course that I will recommend for you. I'll help you determine what you should specifically be working on right now. So you're not all over the place and you're not getting ahead of yourself. You're filling in gaps in your playing so that your playing can sound more complete and you can have more fun and you can move forward and reach your music goals. So enroll in your free video course now at guitarmusictheory.com. You can type that directly into your web browser. or you can just click on the link in the podcast show notes. All right, guitar engineers, thanks for listening. I'm Desi Cerna. Before you go, be sure to subscribe to this podcast, give it a 5-star rating, and leave me a great review if you can. Then keep playing and stay tuned for more.